Hey guys, Teeple here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Bismarck again, this time with the Ciliax build. You can see I got him at level 11 here on the screen. Now, I've been kind of a strong proponent, I suppose, of playing von Hipper throughout the German line. I get a lot of feedback from very good players that I respect that say they prefer Ciliax, and that's fine. I'm not trying to dissuade people from playing Ciliax or not. Now, this ends up being my highest damage game in the ship that I've had heretofore, so keep that in mind. Maybe I'm a fraud, maybe I'm wrong, who knows. But we'll point out some of the secondary damage as the game goes on, and we'll kind of analyze the pros and cons a little bit later in the video. I'll start out just kind of focused on this game though. This is another Haven weak side spawn. If you're not familiar with my thinking on this, I would basically want to get into a position where I'm about to engage the enemy's strong side. They have 6 ships that spawn on the southwest. They have 3 that spawn on the northeast side of their base. We have 3 that spawn on the southwest and 6 that spawn on the northeast. So you got weak side, strong side matchups on this map. And usually what ends up happening is the strong sides push forward and then the map goes around in a circular clockwise motion. So my goal playing the weak side is to get into a position where I can turn around and stop them and slow down their push, allowing my strong side to push through their base and win the game. So that's the basic underlying goal and strategy. New Orleans, long range shot. Ciliax, we're able to pop them over the island. But when I'm watching this replay, a minute ago, trying to refresh my memory on the game, these secondary hits into cruisers, destroyers, it's about 300-400 damage, 350, something like that. Battleships, you're often not going to be getting damage. You still have the fire chance, but that's kind of why I always caution against over-reliance on secondary builds for the ship, and putting more focus on the main guns, because in my opinion you're still going to be doing the brunt of your damage with the main guns. But like I said, I've seen some replays from some of my Discord viewers where they end up getting 50,000-60,000 in secondaries, at least apparently. It's very hard to tell exactly what you're going to get until we get some sort of updated end game screen that goes into the numbers a little bit better. So here I do have a friendly battleship. I don't recall what he is. He's pushing forward too far. He doesn't understand how you need to play this, is kind of get into a position where you can engage and then turn around. You need to go into this play with the understanding that turning around and moving away from these guys is the only way you're going to survive. He's got 4 people that are visible that are shooting at him, and likely a destroyer that's attempting to torp him as well. So I'm alright with him kind of tanking the shots for me until he dies, but it would have been better for me and our team had he turned around with me and begun kiting away as well. That would have enhanced his survivability, which would have allowed us to have double the firepower on the side. So you can see very quickly the 2 teammates of mine that were just kind of pushing forward, trying to come into contact with the enemy without the intention of turning around. They're already defeated, whereas I'm playing it how I intend to play this side, and I'm turned around. Very little damage. We are into our first heal here, but 81k right off the bat, and we've just now completed our turn, so that's a pretty good start here. And we are going to try and put some shots into this Bismarck, who's presenting broadside. Bismarck, as configured right now, very weak in the sides like any other battleship, so the Citadel is definitely ripe for the taking there. But primarily, as long as he was able to shoot at me, I wanted to fire at him first, because that's allowing me to keep my angle basically as tight as I can against all of these ships. I have 3 trailing ships that are visible. The Bismarck is going around that island there, and then we do have that destroyer that was last seen in the area. That's primarily, I'm going slow now as I point this out, but most of my kiting for the remaining sequence of this game is going to be at fairly full speed. That's primarily because of that Kagero that's presumably either trailing me or trying to get into a broadside firing position if he's a good player. Destroyers want to ideally launch their torps into broadsides because they have a potential to hit a lot more of them and they're a lot harder to dodge directed into a broadside of a battleship. Whereas if you fire them directly at a battleship that's going away or towards you, you're only likely going to have 1 or 2 torps at the most kind of lined up on the target to begin with. And they're a lot easier to dodge because they're already kind of pointed that way anyways. So, you know my mantra, I'm going to assume that the player on the enemy team is good. So that's why I'm going to be staying full speed here. And again, he's either directly behind me or he's trying to get to the side, basically where we're looking at on the camera. That's kind of the position he wants to get in there. Now there's Bismarck over here. He's slowing down. He's still trying to engage my enemy team, or my friendly team. But you can see on the map here how the strategy has already paid off. We've lost 1 ship, and I thought we lost 2. So apparently the other guy that spawned over here left. But we've lost 1. They've lost 3. And now we have kind of a free access to their base. They really have no one defending here. They have all their strong side ships are still really over here, except for the Iowa that we took out earlier. But, now we have great map control. We control, roughly 3/4 of the map. They're kind of confined in the southwest corner. So that opens up a lot of crossfires. And again, you can see with the secondary damage here, still, 300-400 damage per hit. So decent damage. I'm not going to turn my nose down on it, but do I want to spec out the entire ship with 300-400 damage per hit? Even if you get, 100 hits, do the math, whatever that is. Kagero, this is where I really like the secondaries. You can see we blast them with the Citadel there. No, I'm kidding. It just kind of lined up right when those shots started going off. But the deterrence the secondaries provide to destroyers from getting too close is really nice. And the secondaries can actually chew up destroyers quite easily if you have them spec'd out for accuracy and reload. Now keep in mind with a level 11 Ciliax, level 12 is where you can get your Porcupine, which is kind of the secondary centric perk. That's where it levels up to 3/4, and then you need to go to legendary level 3, I believe, to get it fully maxed. But I am planning on putting 1 more point into Ciliax at least, and giving those secondaries an extra boost. I'm not opposed to the secondary build. I'm just saying over the course of, if you played 100 games with Von Hipper and 100 games with Ciliax, my guess is that the average damage would be higher on the Von Hipper. I haven't done that. I haven't tested that. I might very well be wrong. I fully admit that. It's just my own thinking on the game. So, considerations for a Ciliax build, especially a secondary build. Number 1, you essentially have to max 2 commanders out for 1 line of ships. You got to max Von Hipper to get that secondary range increase, inspiration all the way up. And you got to max Ciliax out to get the extra 2 heals, which is Ciliax's main draw in my opinion. So really, you do have to be quite dedicated to the German battleship line to be putting 2 commanders worth of build into 1 line, because doing so is going to delay your advancement on a completely different line of ships in this game. So you do have to keep that in mind. Now, if you're going to be using Von Hipper as an inspiration, which I wouldn't really necessarily recommend him on any other battleships in the game, at least currently, or Ciliax as an inspiration, well, he's more of a viable battleship inspiration. So from leveling Ciliax's, just for Ciliax's sake, you can justify putting some points in him early. But utilizing them both, you do, again, just need to realize that it is requiring you to dedicate a lot of upgrade resources to one specific line. So that's another consideration for you. Alright, so getting back to this game, you can see we're up to 172k damage, which is a fine result for any tier 7 battleship, in my opinion at least. And again, we've just been implementing the same strategy. I had this, if I had a game plan written down going into this map and this spawn, this would have been exactly what I wrote down on the game plan. Move into position to engage, and then kite away for as long as you're alive and do as much damage as you can to the enemy team, slowing them down. You see we can win on kills, or we already have people capping in the base. So good execution of the slowdown strategy, defending the weak side. That's, again, pretty much how you need to play it. And if you can pull that off, your team will win. You will note that the Kagero did get into the position that I was talking about him trying to get into, which, again, he got into a position where he was able to launch the torps into my broadside, and that allowed him to finish me off in that one salvo. So good job to him. I hope you did enjoy that look at the Ciliax build on the Bismarck. If you did like the video, please hit the thumbs up. New to the channel, consider subscribing. Questions or comments on this topic, leave them below. I do want to hear from you guys on this one because there's a lot of great opinions out there. And we'll see y'all later. All right, peace.